Wow, they sure do make going outside look fun. And there's definitely a TV over there, and I didn't move it downstairs so I could record my footage. You know what? I think I should go outside and have myself like an adventure, like the Bobbit. Yeah! Hey! A bit more than 2 months ago, Nintendo launched its newest console, the Nintendo Switch. What's it like? I don't know, I don't have one yet, but we're not here to talk about that anyway. We're here to talk about its launch title, the big game. The one that everybody loves. Yes, everybody, because if you don't, a Nintendo fan will come into your house and murder you while you sleep. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Thankfully, also available on the Wii U. Which is good, because I don't want to buy a Switch yet. I'll buy it when it fixed some of the hardware problems and got a bit more games. But enough with the background fluff. Let's get into the actual game. Breath of the Wild is this huge open-world adventure game. And when I say huge, I mean huge. It's the biggest rendition of Hyrule up to date. The beginning area of the game, the Great Plateau, is almost as big as Ocarina of Time's entire map. In this area, you learn the basics of the game. Link wakes up from a long slumber in the Shrine of Resurrection. As he ventures outside, he meets an old man. This old man serves as one of the very few tutorials of this game. You'll find him wandering around various spots of the plateau, explaining various mechanics of the game, but guess what? You don't need to learn these things from him. You can find out all of the important mechanics on your own by just going out there and experimenting, and all this in just a relatively tiny portion of the map. Are we sure this is Nintendo? You know, the guys that assume that there are people in the civilized world that don't know what airports are? Them? Well, color me impressed. The only pieces of info you have to learn from the old man are about towers and shrines. Towers will update the map once you've climbed them and activated them with your Sheikah Slate. Shrines are mini-dungeons that are spread all across Hyrule. There are 120 of them in total. Each one has its own small puzzle that you must solve to get a Spirit Orb. 4 Spirit Orbs can be traded in for a Heart Container, extending Link's health, or a Stamina Vessel, which lets Link perform physical activities for longer amounts of time. There are 4 shrines in the Great Plateau, each giving you a vital upgrade to the Sheikah Slate. Bombs, Magnesis, Stasis, and Cryosis. These are the only upgrades you need in your entire journey. After completing the shrines and getting the hang glider, you can go anywhere. Let me rephrase that. Anywhere. You can go straight to Hyrule Castle and defeat Ganon. The problem is that if you're not an absolute master at dodging or parrying, you will get your ass handed to you on a silver platter. But this is a piece of game design that I just love. In this game, you are not limited by what the player character can do, you are limited by what you can do as a player. Of course, you can still use what the game gives you to help yourself along. When the going gets tough, you can always try to find more shrines to extend Link's health or stamina pool, and you can try to search for better weapons, armor, or food that give temporary boosts. We'll get into those later, but for now I think I made my point clear. Let's talk about the story. If you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead to whatever's on screen. You gotta go there manually too, because no more annotations. Thank you, YouTube. After clearing all the shrines on the Great Plateau, you meet the old man on top of a temple. This temple is the Temple of Time. The old man is the ghost of the king. He explains to you what happened to Hyrule. 100 years ago, Calamity Ganon was about to pull the old resurrection trick again. The kingdom was prepared for this, however. To make this quick and easy, they dug up a bunch of autonomous guardian robots, and also 4 huge mecha to be piloted by 4 champions, each representing a different race in Hyrule. These things were made 10,000 years ago to also combat Ganon. If you're wondering why Hyrule isn't in the space future yet when they had humongous mecha 10,000 years ago, you're not alone. It is explained, however, these robots were made by the Sheikah, the same people that made the towers, shrines, and your Sheikah Slate. Long story short, the rest of Hyrule grew afraid of the Sheikah's incredible technology and asked them if they could maybe chill. Most of them did. Some didn't. These guys went bananas. But anyway, 4 giant robots and an army of autonomous mecha. What could possibly go wrong? Ganon taking over all the robots. That's what. Talk about a plan backfiring. With a near unstoppable army of guardians and 4 giant mechanical beasts, the army of Hyrule was no match to him. Hyrule was almost completely destroyed. Also, did I mention Link was there? Like, the Link you're playing as? Link was tasked with protecting Princess Zelda, but an army of guardians proved just a bit too much for him. Before he died, he was brought to the Shrine of Resurrection to sleep for 100 years. Zelda went to the castle alone to seal Ganon. After doing that for a century, her power has all but run out, and it's up to Link to put an end to Ganon and free Princess Zelda. Defeating Calamity Ganon is your one true goal. The other quests are there to make that one goal easier. The king instructs you to go seek out Impa in Kakariko Village. She explains to you that the 4 divine beasts are still running amok, with their respective champion spirits trapped inside. It's up to you to liberate them. Also, Paya's there. I would die for her. Impa also advises you to go see the Sheikah scientist, Pura. If you do, she'll upgrade your Sheikah slate with the camera function. This opens up another quest, reawakening Link's memories. Link is an amnesiac. He doesn't remember Princess Zelda or any of the people he used to know. It's up to you to make Link remember the people he was once close with. You do this by finding the landscapes in the picture and standing in a glowing spot, triggering a memory. Alright, that was most of the story. Let's get into gameplay. There is so much to do in Breath of the Wild, and it all revolves around one thing: exploration. Like I said before, you can go anywhere after the tutorial. That includes very hard to reach areas like cold places, hot places, really hot places, places where you just fucking burn. But in order to reach and or survive these places, you have to be prepared. One way to do that is to pack the appropriate clothes. The other is cooking. With cooking, you can create all sorts of meals and elixirs that give you temporary boost, like resistance to heat and cold, attack and defense buffs, or simply restoring hearts and stamina. Need to go through these cold mountains? Cook some spicy peppers. Mountains too tall for you? Eat stamina restoring meals on the way. Have to get through this desert? Cook a hydro melon. All the ingredients you need can be found all across Hyrule, and honestly, to me, this is one of the more enjoyable things about this game. It's just looking for stuff. It can be a great time sink. Like I mentioned earlier, you can also wear the right clothing to get the job done. There's a pretty big assortment of clothing that Link can wear, and like with the food, each set gives different buffs. The clothing I ended up using the most were the climbing gear and the Sheikah set, which improves your stealth, something I needed because I spent all my spirit orbs on stamina. Clothes can also be enhanced by one of the 4 great fairies once you've freed them, by paying them. So if you for example like the way one type of armor looks, just upgrade it. Some armors have special set bonuses if you upgrade them twice. Of course, you do need the necessary amount of items to actually perform the upgrades. But even with only 3 out of 4 upgrades, even some of the weaker armor should give you enough protection to face whatever the game throws at you. Also, maybe just don't get the 4th upgrade in general, because this is bad touch. Anyway, the exploring itself is done mostly on foot. However, Hyrule can be a very mountainous land, so it's a good thing that Link can climb pretty much any surface. This synergizes very well with the paraglider. You climb to a tall place, look across the landscape, and glide to any interesting locations you see, as long as you have the stamina for it. However, as much freedom climbing gives, climbing very tall cliffs tends to be slow and boring. In my opinion, at least. That's the reason why I got the climbing gear pretty early on in the game. In fact, here's a useful tip. Follow this road to get as much of the climbing stat ASAP. After you leave the Great Plateau, first make your way to the Dueling Peaks. In between them, you'll find a shrine. This is where you find the climbing bandana. Follow the road to Kakariko Village and then Hateno Village while doing some main quest stuff along the way, and then jump off cliff. In the distance you'll see a shrine. This is where you get the climbing chest piece. Just walk in and... oh... ow, ow, ow. Oh god, he's charging his laser. I'm gonna try to parry it. Yeah! I did it! I did it! Okay, so you don't need the climbing chest piece just yet, but you can easily get the boots. Just don't forget to bring medium level cold protection. I brought low level when I went through half my rations. Once you got the armor, climbing will be much faster. Also, when you're done with all the main quest stuff in Hateno and Kakariko Village, you might want to go here next. Not spoiling anything, keeping it vague, just go here and do the main thing there is to do. The reward is a really big help in exploration. Again, not spoiling anything, just go there. On your journey, you'll also come across mounts, primarily in the form of horses, but not limited to. There's also skeleton horses, bears, Satoru Iwata's Patronus, and reindeers. Yes, this is perfect. Truly the most graceful way of travel, if I say so myself. Now let me register it. Oh, you can't. It's okay, Harold. No one understands our love. Now let me just get... oh... that's right, only normal horses can be registered at stables. They all have varying stats and temperament. Once you've registered them, you can retrieve them from any stable no matter where you left it. You can also name your horse. I named my horse Jason because if you do that, instead of whistling, Link will do this. Jason! Nah, just kidding, I edited that in. You know what else I can edit in? This. stables also serve as small hubs. There's at least one of them in every region. You can sleep here to restore health, cook some meals or elixirs, buy some items from Beetle, the traveling salesman, there's people offering you side quests, and there's always a shrine nearby so you can easily teleport to it. There's also usually a doggo. Who's a good boy? Here's a chicken nugger. Now let me pet you. Wait, how do you pet? How do you pet? How do you pet? You can't pet dogs? Nintendo, what is the meaning of this? You've been letting us pet dogs since 2005, and Pokemon since 2013. In Japan, you can even let us pet women. How can you not let us pet dogs? Okay, I'm sorry, I lost control there. Moving on. You'll also, of course, be doing a bunch of fighting along your journey. You'll face off against Moblins, Bogoblins, Lizalfos, and Stall monsters. There actually isn't a very big variety in enemies. Most of them are just recolors, which is a bit disappointing to be honest. But there are also boss-like monsters like Taloses, Hinoxes, and Lynels. You fight these enemies with all sorts of weapons that you find on your travels. Swords, clubs, axes, spears, bows, boomerangs, etc. Each type of weapon also comes in different varieties. In the beginning, you'll find rusty swords and traveler shields, but in the late game you'll find knights' halberds and maybe even royal guard bows. And there's the elemental weapons, which allow you to break the game. I am serious. Here, allow me to artificially prolong this video by showing you an entire fight with that guardian I just died to, using the elemental weapons. I freeze, and I break. And I freeze, and I break. And I freeze, and I break. And I freeze, and I break. I freeze, and I break. And I freeze, and I break. And I freeze. Witnessing this seemingly infinite cycle of freezing and breaking, I began to ponder, was there ever anything besides freezing and breaking? Do the changes of the seasons from winter to spring not symbolize the freezing and breaking of this 3000 HP Guardian Scout? Like the Ouroboros biting its own tail, we are doomed to infinitely repeat. Oh, he's charging his laser, now I can't freeze him anymore. Better make this quick. You'll find weapons and shields everywhere, on the ground, in chests, in the hands of enemies, everywhere. And there's a very good reason for that. Weapons break. Every weapon and shield will, in some way or another, break after enough use. That weapon with amazing stats that you love using? It's gonna break, and there's no way to repair them, for the most part. I get why this mechanic was put in though, it encourages experimenting with different weapons and not relying too much on one sword. And true, experimenting does make the game more fun. If an enemy doesn't move very fast, you might have enough time to use that slow, but powerful ancient battle axe. But you're probably better off fighting faster enemies with swords or spears. Smacking things with this weapon isn't the only thing Link is capable of. If you dodge an enemy attack at just the right moment, time will slow down, allowing Link to deal a huge amount of hits. It's extremely satisfying to pull off. Time will also slow down if you take out your bow and arrow while falling, allowing for more precise and/or rapid aerial shooting. You don't even have to use your weapons. There's often some neat stuff you can do by using your environment to your advantage, like smashing enemies with metal boxes or shooting fire arrows at explosive barrels. But honestly, as much fun as trying out different weapons is, everything breaks just a little too fast. Also not helping is just how limited the inventory space is, in the beginning especially. You can expand your inventory by collecting Korok seeds and handing them over to Hestu. Korok seeds are found by doing tiny little puzzles, like placing a ball in a tree stump, completing a stone circle, or placing a metal block the right way. The problem is, the amount of Korok seeds you need to expand increases with each expansion. Before you know it, you'll need 35 Korok seeds to get one more slot in your inventory. That means that if you want a lot of space, you're gonna have to dedicate a lot of time on fighting these guys, and honestly, who would spend all their time doing that? I'm sorry, Gerard. That's not the end of my problems, however. First of all, I get the feeling that the world is just a bit too big for its own good. There's 12 areas in total, but 4 of those have no relevance to the plot at all. The sheer size of Hyrule also makes traveling take quite long sometimes. Yeah, you can fast travel, but if you do that, you're gonna have to sit through a load screen. And yes, most of the time it's faster, but you're just sitting there doing nothing. There will also be a load screen when getting in and out of a shrine, and the load time is especially long when leaving. The rest of Hyrule is completely seamless, however. No load times at all when moving in between areas, which is, admittedly, impressive, but I feel like the load times could have been made a lot shorter if the world wasn't so big. The frame rate is also not exactly the best. First of all, it's capped out at 30, but that I can kind of understand. The frame rate does dip in some places, especially with lots of grass or leaves. Sometimes the game just freezes for a few seconds, although it's only moblins that do that. Why? I really don't know. I get it though, it's a huge game and in my case it's running on almost 5-year-old hardware, so it's only logical that it has so much loading. I've heard that the Switch version has a better performance, but I won't be able to properly test that until I actually get a Switch, along with another copy of Breath of the Wild. The game is of course still fine overall. I personally don't even mind the frame drops that much. I mean, I played Minecraft, I can handle it. But for some of you, the low frame rates might be a bigger problem, so it's only fair that I include it in my list of problems. But anyway, exploring, riding, hunting, collecting, there's a lot of things you can do in this game. But what are the things you should be doing? The following part of the video contains spoilers. Kinda. It's mid-game, I'm not spoiling the end, but if you don't want to know anything about the story, skip to this part. Going straight to Hyrule Castle from the Great Plateau is not the best idea. Except if you're really skilled, you're not prepared to face Ganon, or all those guardians that swarm the castle. Besides, the rest of Hyrule also needs saving, specifically 4 settlements belonging to the 4 races: Rito Village, Zora's Domain, Goron City, and Gerudo Town. They are facing troubles because of the Divine Beasts, which have been acting up for a while. You can take them on in any order you'd like, and you don't even have to do them all, but you will miss out on some great rewards. The Divine Beasts are pretty much the main dungeons of the game, and the quests surrounding them are all structured pretty similarly. You meet the successor of the old champion, do a side mission to prove your worth, incapacitate the beast together, fix the beast from inside, fight one of Ganon's blights, and free the champion's spirit. Each quest plays out pretty much exactly like this, although some have a bit more cross-dressing than others. Gonna stick with this shot for a while so your eyes can properly absorb it, while others seem to enjoy giving you your daily dose of survivor guilt and heartbreak. The rewards you get for each of them are great. Not only do you get to inherit the champion's weaponry, which aside from being very strong can also be repaired with a diamond if you lose any, but you also gain special abilities: a shockwave, an auto deflect, an auto revive, and a moon jump, which, like I implied before, is great for exploring. Taking back all the Divine Beasts isn't all you should do, however. You might also want to retrieve the Master Sword. Just head to the Great Hyrule Forest north of Hyrule Castle. Follow the directions of the embers through the Lost Woods into the Korok Forest. There you will find the Master Sword, and also the Great Deku Tree. Hi Deku Tree. Just don't try to pull out the sword if you have less than 13 hearts, because if you do... Don't worry, by the way, you can trade in stamina vessels for heart containers and vice versa by paying tribute to the Horned God in Hateno, because demon deals are always a good idea. The Master Sword itself is alright. It's not that powerful most of the time. There are stronger short swords out there. It technically doesn't break, but it does run out of energy, meaning you won't be able to use it for the next 10 minutes. The times the Master Sword really shines is when fighting anything directly related to Ganon, so Guardians, the Blights, and anything else residing within the Divine Beasts. When it does, its power doubles, making Guardians, which are usually very difficult to take down if you don't have good timing, very easy to defeat. But it still runs out of energy, so that kinda sucks. So here we are, I've liberated all 4 Divine Beasts, found all the memories, got a full stamina wheel because that's what's important, got the Master Sword, and some sweet armor to boot. I even freed that big dragon that was all covered in Ganon gunk. I think it's about time for me to head to Hyrule Castle, and I shall do this on my new noble steed, Minecraft. Onward!
Decided nights of fire, each fight implies a final moment that's slowly outlining the kind of mind that I have. That horizon so mystifying, but have I missed who I am? A mixed survival against this indescribable breath of the wild. By solving intricate puzzles laced in perplexity, how liberate needs my assistance. I'll be there in an instant. This power can be devoured long as there's courage and wisdom.
Fuck Guardians. Alright, I'll be honest. Storming Hyrule Castle is pretty cool. It's infested with Guardians, and it's really satisfying to kill these things with either well-timed parries, well-placed shots to the eyes, or just by wailing on them with your sword. You'll also find some good loot in this castle, like the Royal Guard gear, which, to my knowledge, isn't found anywhere else, and the Hylian shield. It's guarded by a Stalnox, but at this point, it should pose no threat to you at all. There's also the Diaries of the King and Princess Zelda, and the Princess Research Notes. These books really help flesh out those characters and the world around them. They're all worth the read. In the upper part of the castle lies the Sanctum, and there is the final boss, Calamity Ganon. So let's go in. What the fuck is that? Okay, I get that Ganon usually has a second beast form, but... Jesus. I do actually like this design. He appears to be fused with Guardian parts. He also uses the attacks from all the Blights. It's pretty neat. If you freed all of the Divine Beasts, the Champion Spirits will attack Ganon before the fight even begins, taking away half his health. But if you didn't free them, you'll also have to fight all the Blights before Ganon. The fight itself is a test of all of Link's abilities. Flurry rushing, parrying, slowing down time in mid-air, and proper use of the Sheikah Slate. Aside from taking away half of Ganon's health, the champions are also a great help in terms of their abilities, especially Daruk's protection if you don't have the parry timing down. Once you've defeated this form, congratulations, you've beaten the game. In the fight with the second form, you ride a horse around Hyrule Field while shooting glowing parts of his body with the Bow of Light. It can be tricky to hit them sometimes, but here's the thing. Ganon is way too slow to even come close to hitting you most of the time. With a final arrow to Ganon's third eye, actually, I don't really know which eye this is, Princess Zelda herself will break free and seal Ganon for good. For now. In the ending, Link and Zelda walk away from the castle, with the spirits finally drifting away to the afterlife. Maybe. If you got all the memories, the true ending reveals Link and Zelda traveling across Hyrule, making plans of restoring it to its former glory. Also, there's silent princesses growing everywhere. It's symbolic.
We'll make our way to Zora's domain. Divine Beast Faruta. Looks like it's stopped working. Let's investigate the situation.
Well, okay then, let's go. I'll load up my save file. I don't know if the teleporter will work on you, though. I also want to do some more of those shrines and... yeah, this is another thing about the game that bugs me. The ending. All throughout the game, you're nudged to save Zelda, and also be kinda quick about it, because Zelda can't hold on much. Okay, I'm sorry, that was bad. But if you want to truly experience all the fun this game has to offer, you'll be making a lot of detours, and since Zelda is apparently watching over you all the time, the fact that you're doing all this unnecessary shrine hunting is probably making her sad, and you know what, I don't want to live with that feeling. So this is once again a problem stemming from the world being too big. But I don't want to end on a negative note, so now I'm just going to talk about some of the general stuff that I liked. The spoilers end here. I really like how almost all puzzles have multiple ways of solving them. For example, you're supposed to get this barrel to hold down this button, but you can also use stasis to hold it down. I also like how some of the shrine puzzles seem to actually happen outside of the shrine, with the shrine itself being more of a reward. And I just love the Lionel gear. Okay, this isn't really a broad point, but come on, 74 base attack on a short sword, a 5-shot bow, the most powerful weapon in the game? Hunting and killing these guys is so worth it. It also goes really well with the barbarian armor, both in terms of aesthetics and practicality. I also love what this game stands for. The freedom it gives, the ability to learn from experimenting instead of tutorials, the amount of things you can collect or customize, it's amazing. If you have a Wii U or Switch, what are you waiting for? Even if you don't like Zelda or have never played it before, go play this game. I'm sure there's something in there for you. So there you have it. The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Great game. Huge amounts of freedom, exploration, and just things to do overall. Is it perfect? No. There's some frame rate issues, and the world is just a bit too big, which causes a lot of problems. Is it the best Zelda game ever? I don't know. This one's the first one I ever played.